Let's do it.
Welcome in to Check the Mic. Steve Palazzolo Sam Monson. We're all presented by FanDuel. We're live. We apologize for the technical issues, maybe other issues beyond technical.
Well, technical issues, the reason for which shall remain a mystery.
We won't get into it.
No.
Very special show. It's our Week 2 Wednesday update, and we're going to introduce the newest show over here at the 33rd team. It's NFL IQ. So we have two very special guests, the co-hosts of NFL IQ, Cynthia Frelund and Logan Ryan. Welcome to Check the Mic, and we appreciate you guys dealing with our issues over here from the studio.
Yeah, always have issues. We're good.
I was told an internet bill was not paid, but that's okay. I won't judge.
Geez. Logan, come on, man. We're trying to not throw anybody under the bus over here.
We keep it real on NFL IQ. We keep it real. Our fans they know how we keep it.
The technical issue was a credit card issue.
I think it's good to put that out there because it makes the point that it's not our fault.
It's not our fault. Yeah. No, we
go.
Showed up for work. Internet was down. Couldn't figure out why. Turns out the bill wasn't paid.
Yeah,
we'll get better. We're only a month and a half into the new studio. We'll get it. Anyway, welcome, and guys, tell us about the new show. How's NFL IQ going, and what are our listeners going to be getting when they go subscribe over there?
Go ahead, Cynthia. I mean, Cynthia's a genius, and she knows so much about the analytics in sports, and how she breaks it down is really interesting. And I'm there just to add a little insight and some stories. But I really feel like this is something that highlights a lot of her strengths and what she's done for years. And the platform's awesome. And they were looking for a former player, preferably someone who's won Super Bowls, preferably someone who's a little bit smarter than not. And I'm just co-hosting this thing with Cynthia.
You can tell he's a good teammate because, he's hyping me up. But the reality is, you have to have a very smart football player to put context around all of these numbers, as you guys know so well from your past and your current. So when we're talking about like the juxtaposition of how it could feel as a player, what does it mean? What are these things that we're seeing on the field? How do the numbers bear out some of the things that are taught to players, or how do some of the strategies that players are enacting really show up in the numbers? So we're trying to kind of bridge that gap between player and analytics. So you don't hear we hear on TV all the time, the analytics say, that doesn't mean anything to me anymore. I don't know about you guys, but it certainly doesn't mean anything to the players until they understand the context around what we're trying to achieve.
No, there is no overarching analytics either. There are various models.
Who's this overlord? Who's this analytics overlord?
Well, it's actually kind of timely. During the draft a couple of years ago, I saw an unnamed NFL reporter say the analytics around the NFL are pointing toward J.J. McCarthy. And I was like, what does that even mean? Like that, there's no 32 teams all have the same numbers. Like, oh, it's J.J. McCarthy. That doesn't make any sense. So Logan's there to help figure out the context around
Logan's
things.
there to describe the actual football so that no one gets lost in the sauce of all the numbers, right? Logan's genius at figuring out strategies. If you play for Bill Belichick, you already know that you're very smart. If you win not one but two Super Bowls, you're extremely doing something right? So those two things meld together. He can explain and break it down, and then we can show how the numbers either agree with what the strategy says, or we find some hidden things. Like we've spent this morning while we were on the technical delay talking about, assists for players, right? Like how you could potentially measure something like the impact one defensive end's presence has on the other one getting a sack. So that's what we're trying to talk about there. Like what is the hidden gem within all of these larger numbers and bigger strategies?
Logan, how much information was available when you were playing for Bill Belichick with the Patriots? Because he sort of famously, poo-pooed analytics and data and all those kinds of things in front of cameras, and yet, they had Ernie Adams in the building. Clearly they were using this stuff all the way. They just didn't say it out loud to people.
For sure. I think we're always trying to find the best ways to win the game, and that's what Bill Belichick solely cared about. Ernie Adams was there to provide Bill all that information, and Bill didn't necessarily present it to us that way. Bill would say, hey, when this quarterback rolls out to the left, he's super inefficient. So we're not going to let him roll out to the right. And we're going to design our whole game plan to make this quarterback uncomfortable, a la play left-handed. So obviously we would take away certain receivers, run certain plays that, were the opponent's weakness. Some people might view that, hey, analytics say this is their weakness. Us as football players says, don't let them roll out to the right. That's what you're going to do, Rob Ninkovich. You're not going to go underneath. You're not going to let him escape to the right, or you're coming out the game, because our game plan is going to be force this guy to his left, or we're going to double Julio Jones in the Super Bowl. I think that's a no-brainer. Analytics say you take away Julio Jones, you're going to have a better chance of winning. I think it's common sense. And I think that's the beautiful thing about our pod, is that we get to break the game down in a little more detailed, higher level. I love, what LeBron James and JJ Redick had now with Steve Nash, like some of that breaking down the nuances of the game, because although I call games for a living now with CBS, I'm not able to get so technical with it in the 20 seconds I have to talk about the play. I get to kind of get my little football IQ out on this pod and really break the game down for the fan to know what's really going on out there.
And I get to be like, how? Right? Everything he just says, I'm like, how do you take away Julio Jones? Do you do it via double team? Do you have to figure out a zone versus man strategy that reflects the front and the back working together in a different way than normal? So I get to help figure out how and the why.
I was just going to ask, is there a favorite game plan that you had that worked so well, Logan? Is there a favorite game where it's like, Bill said to do this was our plan, and we executed it perfectly?
I would stick with the Julio Jones one. I think that obviously we came back from a 28-3 comeback there. So that's a memorable game, in my opinion, in my career, a Super Bowl win. But Julio Jones had 4 targets in that Super Bowl, and he had 4 catches on 4 unbelievable catches, right? Yes. But it was the lowest he was targeted in any game that season. And if he gets the ball more, I probably don't get a ring there. So there was a lot of, if he's in the slot, we would double him left to right, meaning I would have a shade or whoever. I think Eric Rowe was really matched up with him a lot more, and they would double him with Eric Rowe left to right. And if he's outside, it would be top and bottom, like a cover 2 concept where one corner would be behind him, McCourty would be over top. I was matched up with Mohamed Sanu, who was my college roommate. So I knew him really well. Like I knew what flavor gum he likes to chew and what size his cleats are and real nuanced stuff. So I was comfortable with that matchup. And then Malcolm Butler had Taylor Gabriel, the speedster, there. So we would kind of match up on body types, but we had a real specific game plan. Now, obviously, when you're down 25 points, some things got to go out the window. The double can't stay on. We got to commit to the run game. Me and Cynthia talked about this in our last pod that just released. Why did Atlanta didn't run the ball? Obviously up 25 points. Well, Matt Ryan won MVP that year. He had the best year of his career. He had a Hall of Fame receiver to throw to, and they believed in giving their best player the ball to convert first downs, to keep Brady off the field. And we obviously committed to stopping the run game. Like there was an 8-man box. So you can run the ball, but you're not going to get yards against the New England Patriots in an 8-man box. So they decided to throw the ball at times. They probably shouldn't have. Thankfully for us, we have the greatest Super Bowl comeback of all time. So that's some of the details that I break down, especially in last week's episode.
So you've played with the 2 greatest quarterbacks in NFL history in Tom Brady and Mohamed Sanu.
Yes, and Mohamed Sanu statistically is the greatest quarterback in NFL history.
Perfect career passer rating, right?
The one Rutgers player who was not on the Patriots at that point, and then Bill.
Not yet.
Bill's like, no, flip a second for him in 2019. We need him.
Yeah,
got to have every Rutgers player in New England.
Pretty much.
Cynthia, I saw a great stat that you brought out from week 1 on rushing quarterbacks. I think obviously the league moving in this direction a lot the last couple of years. Last year at this time, I kept putting out a stat every week on how passing touchdowns were down. It was a little misleading because overall touchdowns were similar, but what'd you see this week from our rushing quarterbacks?
Well, the passing touchdowns were in line with the past 2 seasons. I think it was 38 in week 1 this year, and it was like 35 and 37 past 2 years. So those are the same. But we had 13 rushing touchdowns in week 1, second most in a single week in NFL history. It was like week 8 of 2020 or week 15 of 2020, the last time we saw more than that, which was 14. And that's only happened one time. And this is the first time we've had 4 quarterbacks score multiple rushing touchdowns in a week. I mean, Daniel Jones, just like we all dialed it up, was one of those 4 quarterbacks, but it just shows you that some of the principles that are offensive, taught in offensive rooms now are, if they're giving you this coverage, go for it. Right. And then I think the difference maker, Jalen Hurts, one of those quarterbacks, that was the difference maker against the Cowboys. Justin Fields kept that game very close because of his ability to rush, and of course, Daniel Jones. I mean, maybe it was a little bit misleading because Miami's defense gave up, 400 billion yards, in that game. But it was a very, very interesting game plan.
How hard is that from a numbers point of view? Because we talk about this every week one, every year. Projecting forward both teams from like an extreme result like that, where Indianapolis looks great, Miami looks like the biggest disaster in the NFL. Which one of those things is real, or are they going to both come back and meet in the middle?
I think, obviously, now there's some psychology things that could happen. Maybe that's what's going on a bit in Miami. It feels like some weird stuff's going on. But apart from that, most of the data, even in the games that were closer, you have to throw a lot of it out. A lot of it's garbage, as you know very well. And, we'll see what's real going forward. But ultimately, you can take a few things like concepts or how they match up types of defenses against particular types of offenses. Like, are they using too high? What's going on? Some of those are signals, but there's just a lot of noise in week one.
Logan, you were on the call for Cardinals Saints this week, and look, it was closer than I anticipated. I've had some optimism for the Cardinals. I think a lot of people expect the Saints to be picking number 1 or 2 in the draft, but just a 7-point game, and the Saints had opportunities at the very end. What'd you see? And then I'll ask you about Ross Tucker on the side because he's a friend of the show as well.
Yeah. You know what? Meeting with the Saints, Kellen Moore has those people believe in. They love how he's running practices. The players love how relatable he is. I think when you're a new coach, if you're not yourself, players sense that really quickly. And I think he's trying to do it his way. He's not trying to do it Sean Payton's way. He's not trying to do it Nick Sirianni's way. He's trying to do it his way, which is being a former player. He's very efficient in what he does. And although the Saints are rebuilding, they have a lot of experience. I mean, they have Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed. They brought back Brandon Cooks. Alvin Kamara, I kept saying, is still the best player on the football field, right? He's healthy. So, and Spencer Rattler, although people don't, deem him as, a upper echelon or a starting quarterback or whatever, that kid has a chip on his shoulder. He's been doubted. He's still young. He's slippery in the pocket, and he's got a live arm. So that kind of played true. I really like what the Cardinals got going on this year. I think they invested in their front 7. They brought in Josh Sweat and Dalvin Tomlinson and Calais Campbell, and they have Budda Baker in that 3-safety defense, which is very complicated. Will Johnson, the rookie corner, could get obviously rookie defensive player of the week. He was unreal. He had a pick that didn't count. He had a hit that looked like Lito Shepherd on Reggie Bush to Chris Olave in the backfield. So they had young corners that were tested. They stepped up. And I think the biggest thing with the Cardinals this year is obviously Trey McBride is targeted through the roof, and James Connors are still a really good back. How they get Marvin Harrison Jr. involved and kind of have their trifecta of an offense of Kyler, Connor, McBride, I guess a square, and Marvin Harrison Jr. And he had a big game. So I think if they can get him more involved, although he had a good rookie year, but that generational talent like we thought he was, they're going to be a tough team to beat. And I think both things proved true. Week 1 football, Kyler was a little sick under the weather, we heard, but I think the Cardinals won, but the Saints played well.
Love it. Logan, Cynthia, we appreciate you guys joining us. Everybody go check out NFL IQ right here on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Check it out, and we'll have to do it again sometime.
Oh, yeah.
Sounds great.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Cynthia Frelund, Logan Ryan, go check out NFL IQ, the newest podcast from the 33rd team here. New teammates.
Yeah, I think Logan's in Cincinnati this week for his game. If he needs some place to set up and prep, we've got a studio that may or may not have internet. It could be right here.
I think we're good for another 30 days. Right? We're at least good for another 30 days.
You would hope so, yeah.
Mark, are you watching? Is this your fault? Did you do this?
The important thing is it's not our fault.
The important thing is it's not our fault.
After that, it's all good. I don't really care whose fault it is as long as it's not mine.
scratching the surface of professionalism
every week.
While we're also just being very candid here, lighting question. We're always tinkering with the lighting, and so we've experimented with something a little bit different. See, how's the solo?
That's
shot?
not great.
Is that too?
What I was thinking
too bright in the back? We have curtains
partially drawn. Yeah.
Partially drawn.
What I was thinking of is whether the big curtain over there, if we draw that one, right, and you just have daylight spilling in from that, because the problem is this is now lighting you from the side, kind of like Ansel Adams. So if we draw the big curtain over there, maybe that's like a full, natural light bathing us. No, not now. I feel like the future, maybe tomorrow, we can experiment with it. But yeah, right now is probably not the time.
Anyway, it was great to have. We were going to have a little bit more time with Logan and Cynthia.
We had more time planned back when we thought we'd have internet at 9 a.m.
We did. But yeah, I love that as a concept. And, Cynthia does great work with her advanced numbers. And then Logan Ryan, of course, bringing the player's perspective, and not just the player's perspective, but being in the building, during the Bill Belichick era, winning the 2 Super Bowls. So a great combination there.
And that, by the way, the kind of his explanation of how, you square the idea of Bill Belichick dumping on analytics, but at the same time, having analytics is the perfect case study in how it's supposed to work, right? Like, they didn't go to the players with here's a dossier of analytics that you need to understand for this game. They used the analytics, they came up with insights based off the analytics, and then they simply presented those to players like they were the standard game plan, right? Like, the data says this guy, if you can force him into this situation, is terrible. So therefore, you simply present to the players, hey, turns out this guy's terrible in this situation. We're going to construct the game plan to force him into this situation the entire time. Like, not only were they doing analytics, but they were better.
I don't know if I would call that analytics, though.
But that's exactly what analytics is.
But that's Bill just watching the film and being like, this is a thing. I don't even know if they had hard numbers behind it.
I think they did. That was the whole point. The point is, that's exactly how analytics is supposed to function. Like, not only were they using it, they were using it better than everybody else because it was doing exactly what it's supposed to do, which is analytics is providing actual insight that can be actionable, quote unquote, for a game plan on Sunday. Like, they were the perfect embodiment of how analytics is supposed to function. And then also we're out there in front of the media being like, nah, analytics sucks.
Numbers, stats are for losers,
right? Is
what we like to say. My messages are spotty to our producers as well, so I think we're just working through. We're working through the show.
I believe if you close and then reopen Slack, it fixes that.
I don't know if that's really true, but let's find out.
I mean, it did for me. So
I'll Control-Alt-Delete that thing. We're going through the news.
Sure.
Jaguars have traded a running back.
They did.
They're coming to town this weekend, coming to Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Jacksonville Jaguars have traded running back Tank Bigsby to the Eagles for 5th and 6th round draft picks next year. Thoughts on this trade? Jags were Travis Etienne. I keep wanting to say Trevor because his brother's in the NFL now, and it's messing with me. Travis Etienne has a huge game on Sunday. They were phasing out Bigsby.
Yeah.
People are trying to figure out how this Jags backfield was going to be sorted because you had the 1-2 punch. Then they made 2 draft picks, but it turns out Bigsby's the odd man out there for the Jags, and the Eagles add another back because Will Shipley's banged up.
Right. It was fascinating because people thought, now you've done it to me. Travis. People thought Travis Etienne might have been on the trading block because they did add all these running backs in the draft because you had Tank Bigsby, who's been a fan favorite the whole way. And, people thought he might get moved. And then all of a sudden they rock up week 1 and he's by far, he's the number 1 back in that backfield and a workhorse. I mean, it wasn't a committee. It wasn't a split approach. It was basically Travis Etienne and then almost nobody else outside of a few snaps here or there. And Bigsby, not only was he not battling Etienne for the number 1 role, but he was battling Bashal Tutin for the scraps at the end. So it makes perfect sense from Jacksonville's point of view to move him because there are people out there that really like Tank Bigsby, and because evidently he's not a significant part of this backfield, or at the very minimum, they believe that his role can easily be split between Bashal Tutin and LaQuint Allen. So makes perfect sense from Jacksonville's side. From Philadelphia's point of view, presumably that indicates Will Shipley's going to be banged up for a while. And sure, why not add a running back that is good cover for Saquon Barkley.
And the Eagles have invested a little bit in the running back position, not crazily.
Yeah,
I mean,
obviously you can't Saquon.
I mean, Saquon, they got him relatively cheap last year, for the market, but still a high number for the running back position. And of course, they just re-upped him before the season. Brought in A.J. Dillon, mid-round draft pick on Will Shipley a couple years ago, and a 5 and a 6. It's not insignificant. To bring in Bigsby for that as well. I do wonder too how much they are really trying to secure that backup role because of everything we talked about this offseason. Saquon Barkley coming off of this long season, high volume season. It's not a great history when running backs are able to do that. And I do wonder how much they're looking to maybe spell Saquon Barkley this season and have someone that they trust to maybe steal just a few carries to keep him fresh throughout the year.
Yeah, so potentially a lot less about cover, like injury cover for Saquon, and more about we specifically want to get him off the field more. Not because, obviously he's still your most potent playmaker, but you could see it in the first game. I mean, he made a big play or two, and then Will Shipley was in there, like taking a drive, and then Shipley gets hurt, and suddenly, the dynamic changes, but it does look like they want to spell Saquon more than they had or either did or were able to last year. That's probably a smart thing just because of how much work you gave him last year.
And then just from a Jags perspective, new general manager James Gladstone, I don't know the number of moves that he's made, but it's pretty significant since the draft. Guys like Gabe Davis out, Christian Kirk traded. They are undoing many of the moves of the previous regime and bringing in either their players or, in this case, a 5th and a 6th round draft pick for a new front office that clearly wants to be able to, build through the draft. They're also missing next year's first rounder, so this isn't offsetting that whatsoever. But it's starting to play out like the old Rams strategy there, where if they're going to be missing a first rounder next year from the Travis Hunter trade. But remember, the Rams used to draft like 10 times on day 3, so the Jags perhaps setting up for that. And again, they added Bashal Tutin and LaQuint Allen in the draft, so they're going with their players, right? They're trading players that they inherited, going with their players. And look, if ETN looked really good on Sunday, and he's fast, and Bashal Tutin's fast. I mean, they now have one of, if not the fastest backfields, or at least 1-2 punches of running backs in the NFL right now. And if they can get a little bit of room to run, they've got some big playability. Because that's Tutin's game, right? He's a 4-3 runner. He's not. He's okay in between the tackles, but he's certainly better when he gets it to the edge and has that big playability that I think we'll get to see a few more opportunities from him. In the coming weeks.
LaQuint Allen, I don't think is a speedster, but he's got versatility in the passing game. So you do have a complete skill set amongst that trio in the backfield now.
Other news for this week. Former Patriots safety Jabrill Peppers has signed with the Pittsburgh Steelers. They lost to Sean Elliott for at least a couple of weeks with an MCL strain. Jabrill Peppers, it was a surprising late cut by New England because he had been a starter there. He'd been a very good box safety, good run defender over the last couple of years. Remember when he came out of Michigan, he looked like he was going to be one of the most versatile players in the NFL. It hasn't necessarily materialized in that sense, but he's become a pretty dependable player and added to a Steelers defense that a week ago at this time I thought had a chance to be one of the best in the NFL. But they looked awful in week 1 against the Jets. But still, it's a good player added to, on paper, a lot of good players in that secondary.
Yeah, I mean, Peppers is sort of fascinating because I think you always come back to the player that people thought he could be, like this fascinating. There was a bunch of players actually for a few years in that kind of mold where they were, they were mold-breaking type of players, guys that could theoretically do this incredible versatile role, could be, all over multiple different positions. And none of them really seemed to. None of them really worked out like that. They were all, the idea of what they could be was actually better than the player they ended up being. But he has become just a dependable, good, reasonably versatile safety in terms of you can play him in the box, you can play him deep, like that type of versatile. Not you want him covering the slot, he can move all over the place, but he can play either of your safety roles in any kind of defense. So yeah, for Pittsburgh, where that's the weakest area of that defense, it's a good addition.
Other bit of news from yesterday. We got an update on Jalen Carter. Jalen Carter will be available this week. He will not be suspended for the spitting incident. The NFL essentially said because he was thrown out before the game, we're going to call the game that he missed his one-game suspension. Also fined $57,222.
What? $57,222.
Got some formula for that, I'm sure. It's probably as complicated as the comp pick formula.
It sounds more complicated than the comp pick formula.
As a football fan, I'm happy about that. Like, I would rather see the good players play more, but were you surprised that they didn't tack on more of a suspension than in that they actually admitted and said, well, you know, the one game, he missed a game already. He served his punishment. Like, if he did this after the first play, you can't make that same argument, right? Yeah. But it was before the game, so they're saying, hey, he already missed a game.
Yeah, I mean, okay. I've said before, like, spitting on somebody, particularly from like a yard away, it's such an egregiously disgusting act that there's basically no punishment you can hand down that I wouldn't be okay with. You know, I'm absolutely fine with anything you want to do to a guy after that. Fining him, suspending him, banning him, whatever you want to do, I'm cool. It's so obnoxious that I have no problem with it.
I was going to suggest, by the way, that it is the game check. I see people talking about that, but I don't think that's the game check. I don't think that's the game check.
No, it's way too low for that. It's going to be part of some weird formula they have. It's a weird argument because I kind of get it on the one hand. Yes, okay, he's already missed a game. That's his suspension. But like that does open exactly that door you talked about. Well, how many snaps is missing a game now? If he plays one snap, he functionally missed the game, but he played one snap, right? 5, 10, like what's the line now where that counts as a suspension? So yeah, it kind of works in this particular instance because he literally didn't play an entire snap, but it opens the door to a weird line of argument if you make that. Ultimately, I think it's fair enough. Take some money out of the guy. He already missed the game. Okay, let's move on. Let's hope he doesn't do that again.
Last thing I wanted to touch on from a news perspective, the Tyreek Hill rumors have already started. I don't even know where they started. Like
you started them.
I am very tactful in how I put stuff out there. Every now and again, I will put out a fake rumor. Absolutely will do that. I've done that before.
I'll do it again.
I created a completely fake story about Baker Mayfield that got picked up a few years ago when he was coming out of college.
Yep.
Guilty. I've admitted that on the show. On this one, I said...
That's why you don't have an AP vote.
This is very soft language.
Wouldn't catch me doing that.
Very passive voice language. I said, yeah, if the Dolphins continue to lose, especially as they did on Sunday... The rumors, people are going to start saying Tyreek Hill to the Chiefs.
No, somebody pull up the receipts. You started this weeks ago. You were like, there's a world where Miami doesn't go well.
Right? There is a world.
Tyreek Hill back to the Chiefs is going to start swirling.
That world has started because the Dolphins looked terrible. They were the worst team in the league. They lost 33-8 this week.
You're the hot dog meme. You're like, we're all trying to find the guy who started this. I don't know where these rumors are coming from. You on this show to the camera have been like Tyreek Hill of the Chiefs going to happen again.
I said there's a world. If the Dolphins keep losing, we're 1 week away.
Where are these rumors swirling?
We're 1 week away, So I think the people that started them beyond me may not have the best credibility. But the last time I questioned internet rumors, Micah Parsons got traded 2 days later. So
yeah, I don't think it's still not. It's not coming from anywhere other than people putting 2 to 2 together and saying this would make sense.
There's a former Chief.
Like nobody's really actually saying,
Chiefs lost their
it's like,
guy.
Chiefs still have problems at wide receiver and their number one guy is still out for a while. Miami Dolphins may have to blow this whole thing up and everyone's getting fired because they look like the worst team in football in week 1. Therefore, Tyreek Hill going back to the Chiefs would make some sense. Like nobody's actually reporting this as a thing that could happen, are they?
No, nobody's officially reporting.
Right.
We're merely theorizing the same way I am. So, just get ready. It's going to heat up, as I suggested.
According to Drew D in the chat, 57,222 is in fact his game check amount.
This is game
Carter's
check.
Base salary is very low.
Yeah, because if it's based off base salary, your signing bonus is the big chunk of your salary until you get to year 5.
Yeah,
as a first round pick.
Right.
Apologies for not.
And it's a reasonable number. Take a game check away. You missed the game. It all makes sense from that point of view.
We're very professional. We're just working on the fly here. FanDuel's getting you ready for the NFL season with an offer you don't want to miss. New customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet. You bet $5, and if it wins, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use all across the app. You could build parlays. You could bet player props. You could ride the live lines. Whatever your style, FanDuel has you covered. So it's week 2. We're heading into week 2 of the NFL season. It's time. The only question is, are you ready to play? So visit FanDuel.com/CTM to download the FanDuel app today and get started. That's FanDuel.com/CTM. Must be 21 plus and present in select states. For Kansas, in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 plus and present in D.C., Kentucky, or Wyoming. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit FanDuel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. And today we're going to look ahead to Thursday night football with a prop bet. So we have a great Thursday night football game here.
What do we got?
Battle for the number 1 seed. Washington Commanders and the Green Bay Packers.
How early into the week do you look at the following week's schedule?
I usually I've got an idea. On Sunday, sometimes I like to look ahead.
Really?
I don't take it one game at a time. I do look ahead.
You actually do.
I do.
You're looking past teams right away. Straight into the next week.
Yeah, I want to know what the breakdown is. I want to know if there's 8 ones and what the main 4. Like this week, there's 8 ones or 9 ones and 3 4s.
Okay.
Because they wanted to have Eagles Chiefs.
Because I'm basically not even thinking about it until Wednesday.
Can you stay focused here?
I'm staying focused.
Commanders Packers.
Yeah.
And we have 2 passing yard prop bets to discuss here. So we have 2 defenses that looked really good on Sunday. Packers and Commanders. The over-unders for Jordan Love and Jaden Daniels. Are they the same exact number? That's not a typo, right?
They're different.
No, not in my printed document.
One is 226 and one is 225.5.
Really is. That's just my eyes. Jordan Love's over-unders 226.5. And Jaden Daniels 225.5. Over-under on either one. Any thoughts on Jordan Love or Jaden Daniels over-under? We have a Commanders defense that looked really stout up front. They did a nice job. And then the Packers defense, of course, kept the Lions in line until that one late touchdown.
Well, this is a classic example of then evaluating week 1 and figuring out how much of each thing was real. I believe there's a greater chance that Green Bay's defensive performance was real than there is Washington's, at least to that degree. I think the Giants were a big part of Washington's. So my instinct would be to go over with Jordan Love's number, but under with Jaden Daniels' number.
Yeah, so I think I'm with you. I hate that I'm agreeing with you here. I would say the struggle we always have is how much do you want to default to priors versus the last week of evidence. My prior on Washington is that the pass rush won't be great, even though they had a nice game up front across the board last week. I'll go over on Jordan Love. 226.5. Like the way he looked. I think he's got a chance to have a good stretch of play. He would have had a lot more passing yards if they weren't up so much, right? And the Lions had a lot of long drives to nowhere in that game. So I think Love will have more opportunities here. And I think with Daniels, because his legs are such a factor, that I'll go under as well on the 225.5 for him. I think Daniels can still have a really good game against Green Bay, but it might be one of those, he's got 12 carries for 80 yards. And that's a big reason why they're moving the ball not so much through the air. So it's all over at FanDuel. Go check it out right now. FanDuel.com/CTM.
The chat's asking when you're going to break out reading glasses.
The 6 and the 5 looked similar.
I mean, yeah, they do look similar, but they look distinct enough that if you have eyesight that can differentiate
on
between...
a day when other people have failed us, and I'm over there thinking, whoever put this Will screwed up the document and just put in the same number. But he didn't. And it's my fault.
Turns out your eyesight is just so bad you can't read.
Should not be blaming people. What is next? It's all out of order now. The whole show.
I believe the Shouty Shows are next, and you need IFB in your ear for that.
I have it.
Oh, you have it. Good.
I'm ready to go.
Well, then we're good to go, I think.
Shouty Show time. Let's get it going.
I've thought about it very deeply.
I liked how he started it with, I've thought about this long and hard.
I trust the backup quarterback more than I do Dak.
This is why Skip Bayless is the master of the Shouty Show segment.
I can't do it anymore. It is year 6.
It's just a never-ending arms race of idiocy between loud, obnoxious people. We are the antidote to that.
I might repeat arms race of idiocy every single week.
It's a good one.
That's so good.
I like it.
That's great. I love that. You're a master. Wordsman.
Uh-huh.
Wordsmith.
Wordsmith, yeah.
Wordsmith. All right, we're going to start with a hot take on Monday Night Football. This will be good.
We got a lot of time to talk about this. Put your feet up. We got two quarterbacks to analyze because that's the story of last night. And Graziano, what was your first thought this morning?
I thought that even though he was hurt and didn't play last year, the year that J.J. McCarthy spent in Minnesota last year was more beneficial to his development than the year Caleb Williams spent in Chicago last year was to his. And just
all right, it's a one-game takes.
Yeah.
You got to have the one game takes.
Dan Graziano coming in with the hot take. He's usually like the quiet reserve voice of reason on that show.
I mean, it's not a
relative to the other people.
It's not a wild take. I mean, just drop this in week 10 or something,
Yeah.
After a little bit more evidence.
Right, sure. It's also not like, I mean, you could say that without any evidence whatsoever. It's like you don't even need the evidence for that take.
Nobody
you
can
could
really
just
know.
say, I mean, even independent of it's one of those takes that's actually independent from the results. Like, it might have been more beneficial, and yet he might still stink as a quarterback or never work out or be amazing. Like, you know what I mean? It could still have been more beneficial. All you need to, in order for that to be true, the only thing that also needs to be true is that, like, Caleb Williams' rookie season was basically a net negative, which I think is not an unreasonable thing to argue at this point. So whether or not J.J. McCarthy ends up being great, whether or not Caleb Williams ends up being great or terrible or whatever, anywhere in between, that take can still remain true.
Yeah, I don't even know if that's necessarily true. Caleb Williams playing in a system that wasn't great. I mean, it was a lot of reps of NFL football that could have done him well. All I know is, if we haven't learned anything in life and generally, but particularly over the last couple weeks, where we just saw people making declarative statements about UNC's offense.
Yes.
2 Monday nights ago.
After a drive.
Right? After one drive. Bill Belichick has created an historic, championship caliber offense. And then on Sunday night, the Ravens have built a juggernaut. They're unstoppable. The Ravens this and the Ravens that, and they lost.
Till the final few minutes.
Right? And then on Monday night, I mean, look, you can put your opinions out. You can do whatever you want. It's just sports. It's just fun. But you had a lot of, J.J. McCarthy, and this is the risk when you move on from a guy that's established, a guy you get the unknown mystery box. And J.J. McCarthy, he looked awful at the beginning.
Yeah.
And then people are going the other way with, see, Kevin O'Connell got it right. He got it right. They made the perfect decision to let Sam Darnold walk and go with their rookie quarterback. Or second-year quarterback. You don't have to have a massive, strong opinion about J.J. McCarthy yet.
I don't like this as a Shouty Show take because I feel like it's too like, well, you can't quite it's like a technicality. You can't quite prove it or disprove it either way. It's just, fuzzy enough that it can be true or otherwise, regardless of what happens. It almost feels like you're just trying to present something that could be right, but sounds a little bit edgy. It's not true. Shouty Show fodder is like, come up with something ridiculous. Yeah. It doesn't matter if it's right or not. And then just argue it to death.
So this isn't, it's not an extreme take.
No.
But you've chosen to evaluate the Shouty Showness of this. I've chosen to jump back up on the soapbox and say, let's not make declarative statements over 10 passes.
Well, this was sufficiently non-declarative that it doesn't even count.
All right, just doesn't count.
Like it's almost a rational thought piece. Well, maybe this. That's not Shouty Show fodder. What are we doing here?
Maybe this next one is we have an overreaction to the Packers coming up here.
Micah Parsons actually only played about 45% of the snaps. But between Jordan Love's poise, Josh Jacobs, what is that, 9th straight game he scored a touchdown? Franchise record. The coaching, Green Bay looked different, folks. It is official. Let me overreact. Green Bay is winning that division. I don't need to watch Vikings-Bears tonight, and I do not need to see the Lions again.
Yeah.
Adding Micah, played less than half the snaps, is different. Between Matt LaFleur and Jordan Love and that run game and Rashawn Gary and Micah, this is the best-looking Packer team I have seen since Aaron Rodgers in his prime.
See, that's good, right?
That's good. That's a good Monday afternoon. I don't even need to see tonight's game.
Because it's self-aware as well. It's like, I'm gonna go out and say something ridiculous. I'm going to kind of tell you it's ridiculous, and I don't care. That's the key. That's the key to Shouty Showness. It's that you don't care. that you could and maybe will be wrong quite soon. It's just like, I've seen all I need to see. X is true, regardless of what comes later.
And you and I said, of all the, if we were going to overreact to something, that felt like the one, man, the Packers look good.
Yeah.
By the way,
I mean, I think you might be right. It's still crazy to come out and be like, I've seen all I need to see. The Lion, I don't need to see the Lions ever again. The Bears, Vikings is irrelevant. Green Bay will win this division.
I'm going to say this on the show 100 times tomorrow. My favorite thing to say between week 1 and 2. You know, there's an old in college football, they use this old axiom, you know, you make your biggest improvement between week 1 and 2, which is another awful statement, which is unprovable. And it's like, so every team's just getting better. And it's just a stupid thing to say. But the thing I always say every year is not stupid. Part of the reason why the week 1 overreaction is dumb is because, like, if the Lions were playing in the Dome against the Packers in week 1, everything's probably a little bit different, right? There's different home road advantages. Part of the reason why I don't want, like, if Miami got wrecked at home, I think I'd be way more concerned than them going up against a really emotional Colts team with their home game, and now Miami goes home. Like, so that's the thing. Like, do I want to say the Packers look great? And yeah, like, I feel much better about them competing for the division title than I did 1 week ago. Absolutely. But that doesn't mean that they're gonna wreck the Lions when they get to the Dome, when they're in Detroit either, or for the rest of the season. So yeah, I think the Packers look good. But it's that's good Shouty Showness, right? Just evaluating what Colin did. Is just I'm making a declarative statement here after 60 minutes of football.
Mike McDaniel said something at his press conference that it mirrors what we sort of said before in terms of how these seasons play out. He basically said, look, the first 4 weeks, everybody's trying to figure out who they are, right? You go into a season, you think you know something, you think you know what you are, who you are, and then it plays out differently. And obviously for Miami, it played out catastrophically relative to what they thought they were. But this is the thing. The first 4 weeks of the season, everyone's trying to work out who exactly they are. The next 4 weeks of the season is a different life cycle. The last few weeks of the season is a different life cycle. So right now, Green Bay may be further ahead than people thought they were, or maybe a better team or different. But that doesn't mean that, like, come December, things haven't changed and other teams have, jumped further ahead and blah, blah, blah. Like, again, there are many reasons why that's an utterly ridiculous statement.
And off the top of my head,
he knows them.
There are 2 Dolphins teams that really come to mind, right? The 2019 Brian Flores Dolphins looked like one of the worst constructed teams of all time, and then they, got caught for tampering. I mean, for tanking and tampering, actually.
Yeah. Did a lot of nasty.
They lost. They lost like 80-7 over their first 2 games, something ridiculous, right? They looked like they were ready to be the worst team in history, and then Brian Flores actually got them more competitive by week 6, 7, 8, whatever it was. And then, of course, just 2 years ago, the Broncos were on that pace. They give up 70 to the Dolphins. The Dolphins, remember when Mike McDaniel said, hey, mission accomplished. We had the most. They said, hey, you had the most yards through 5 weeks in NFL history. It's like, yeah, great. So the Dolphins looked ready to take on the league. The Broncos looked like the worst defense. That was the worst defensive performance I've seen as an NFL analyst.
It was an NFL record.
Week 3 of 2023.
70 points.
Yes. That was the worst I've ever seen. And Pat Surtain was on the field. Like, it wasn't like the talent wasn't there. But by week 7 or 8, that defense was all of a sudden competitive, and they carried that momentum into last year and into this year where they're good. So, yeah, that's...
And, of course, again,
that's
remember,
part of the ebbs and flows of the season.
Last year's Saints looked like the best team in the NFL, certainly through week 1, probably through week 2, and then turned out they were pretty bad.
That was why I even apologized for that. I apologized for not being familiar with their game.
Yeah.
But Taysom Hill got hurt, so that ruined everything. True. All right, we have a former MVP talking about the Ravens.
Because everybody saw the brilliance and the playmaking ability from the Baltimore Ravens. But the only team that can beat the Baltimore Ravens is the Baltimore Ravens, and when they don't come up to show, and I mean all facets, I mean field goal kicker, I'm talking about special teams, I'm talking about defense, I'm talking about offense, you're going to see those type of blunders happen more times than not. And I'm telling you, if we don't see, and to Damian's point, if the Baltimore Ravens do not have a deep playoff push, and that's the only thing that we're judging them off of this year, a deep playoff push, it's going to be world to pay.
I don't know what that final statement necessarily means. Does that mean heads are going to roll, people getting fired?
Yeah,
I mean, the Ravens and Bills are both in this position where if you don't surpass the Chiefs and at least make it to the Super Bowl, like you're going to question yourself every year because of how good your team is potentially.
Exactly. And they're both in a difficult position, I think, because I think institutionally they recognize that they're well-run teams. They're well-run organizations, top to bottom. Coaching is good. General manager is good. Personnel is good. Like, all this stuff is good. So if you don't progress in the playoffs year on year, what do you change? Like, do you go, we got to change something significant because we keep running up against this brick wall, knowing that doing so is definitely removing a good part of your organization, right? This is the issue. Like, normally you just go, yeah, this is obviously a problem. Let's get rid of this guy and we get better. But you know that these guys are good. Like, John Harbaugh is a good NFL coach. Does he maybe have some trouble late in games? Maybe. Like, is that a weakness of his? Potentially. But you know he's a good coach, right? So you're potentially running a significant risk of getting dramatically worse by changing something fundamental at the end of every year. But I think he's right in terms of, like, if Baltimore looks really good all the way through the regular season again and then chokes in the playoffs, like, it's very, very bad for them.
A lot of these hot takes and, how did the Ravens do this again? How does Kyle Shanahan blow all these Super Bowls? A lot of that is you have to be good enough to be in that position, right? The Ravens have to be good enough to be up 10 in the fourth quarter, which they are as much as if not more than every team in the league.
It is more. Ben Solak, friend of the show, had a stat in his article. I don't remember what the number was, but it was like they have half a dozen more of those situations than any other team in the last few years or whatever.
So when you have the most, you'll probably blow the most leads as well. However, they still do, like, even from a percentage standpoint, it's still pretty high.
Yep.
And as you and I were talking during the internet outage, they're the best running team of our generation. They are most equipped to handle a lead.
Yeah.
And ironically, they haven't had one of these meltdowns in the playoffs. But
they just haven't been good in the playoffs.
The pain will come. Honestly, as Cam says, the pain will come. That would be the thing. If you're talking something's going to happen at the end of the year, like if they have a 10-point lead against Kansas City with 5 minutes left, or against Buffalo, if the same thing happens with Buffalo in an AFC Championship or a divisional round, that's where I think you could actually see some changes. But you have to be up. Like Kyle Shanahan, can't win the big one. The dude's in the big one. Like, he's in NFC Championships. He's in Super Bowls often enough because he's that great.
Yeah.
Then you're a few plays away. If the Ravens are that good that they're up a lot, but they still blow more leads than they should, especially with how that team is constructed.
Yeah, they remain basically as good a regular season team as anybody over the last few number of years. They have had more of those double-digit leads than anybody else over that period of time, but they have also blown a bigger percentage of those than the league average is, and they should be better at that than other teams because Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson theoretically is basically an unstoppable rushing combination in, the 4-minute drill situations. And yet that's exactly where things seem to be unspooling. I also wanted to mention, I sent you this meme slash message during the weekend that somebody said the funniest thing Shane Gillis has ever said is that Cam Newton dresses like a cartoon cat. And I think that's 100% accurate. He basically dresses like Top Cat. It's pretty funny.
Oh, man. I mean, at some point, Cam might want to join the show.
I feel like that's something that could be put to him.
Do you get your wardrobe from 40s cartoons?
Do you agree with Shane Gillis that your particular fashion style resembles a cartoon cat? Is that the look you're going for?
If it is,
I mean,
success.
The only thing that needs to change for that right there to be Top Cat is that he's cut a hole in his hat so that his dreadlocks poke out.
Yeah.
Top Cat didn't have dreadlocks, but other than that, it's right on.
He knows what he's doing. We have a Justin Herbert comparison coming. Is this from the boss?
I don't know.
Been on the record for years that he is 90% of the talent of Mahomes.
That's right.
And you think Mahomes is the most talented player ever. So Justin Herbert is 90% of the way to being the most talented player of all time.
Well, would you agree that Peyton Manning's about 90%?
I don't think it's Peyton Manning.
He's on pace.
And so what does this mean for this year?
It means that he is going to continue on the Peyton Manning trajectory, which in year 6
Was an MVP.
Was an MVP in an AFC Championship game appearance. And last graphic, please.
Oh, more graphics. Wow.
One more. He's ahead of schedule. Week 1 of his 6th season, where Peyton Manning won 12 games and was the MVP, he started with 0 touchdowns, 2 picks.
In case he was bad.
Right.
So that way, if he was bad, he could be like, bro, he could be like,
Exactly.
right there.
3 touchdowns and a win over Mahomes.
Wow, that's even stronger.
Nick Wright and Danny Parkins combining, who used to be like that was the combination on 610, the Kansas City radio station. Like that was just a sports afternoon. That was the show. Nick Parsons,
Nick
Parkins, and
he's a
Danny
Kansas City
Parkins
guy.
and Nick Wright.
So Danny's a Kansas City guy. Is he?
They both came. I don't know where they.
I mean, they both came through Kansas City radio.
Right. They were that show.
So Danny, his first time. Welcome to Shouty Shows, by the way.
Yeah.
So Danny is probably going to play the Justin Herbert foil to Nick Wright.
I don't think that's like an everyday combination. I think Danny was just pinching in for somebody.
Oh no, I thought they were together now after all
Maybe
the
they
shakeups.
are. Are they?
I think they
I don't
are.
know.
I think they've been reunited.
Oh, okay.
On the big show here.
So who lost? Did they get rid of? Is it? What's his name? Rose? Jalen Rose? Jody Rose?
I don't know. I don't watch.
Okay.
I don't know who was on the show. I don't even know who was on the show to get canned. I find out they're on the show when they show up on our show with ridiculous takes.
Okay. Yeah.
Not Nick though. He's great. So yeah, I want to sunset all trajectory comparisons.
Okay.
I want to get rid of all of them. There's just too many variables. Whether you're saying, well, let's look at Herbert and Peyton through 6 years. Let's look at Mahomes versus Brady through X number of years. Because the assumption is that the next 10 are going to be the same. Because the first 5 are the same or better or worse, the next 10 will be the same.
But also, through what lens are we looking at that? Like, you can't do it through stats because Peyton Manning's era, like, we know we can't compare stats across eras. So are you doing it by, like, team performance, wins? Like, because that's equally as improbable because that just relies on what does the team look like.
By the way, people misremember Peyton Manning. The thing that you say this a lot too, like, and I say it a lot. Peyton Manning had 26 interceptions his first year. He was good his first year.
NFL record.
Yeah, but he was good his first year, right? We're not using that as he had 26 interceptions. Peyton was awful as a rookie, and then he figured it out. Like, he was actually good. Like, when you go back and watch the games, you were watching and saying, Colts nailed it. Like, they got the right guy. They should not have picked Ryan Leaf, even though Leaf started like 2-0. They got the right guy. Peyton Manning had them. They lost a lot of games, but he had them competitive, and there was like a couple mistakes here and there. Absolutely, he was a rookie. By 99, he was good. By 2000, he was on his way to being great, and then by 03, he was winning Super Bowls. winning MVPs, what have you. It wasn't like, man, he had 26 picks, because back then, if you were awful, you'd have 26 picks and like 4 touchdowns.
28
picks. Yeah, it's bad. I mean, it's a bad place in there. But
I
he
think
was good overall as for a rookie at that time being thrown into the mix. That was not a bad season.
No, well, I think the way I always characterize that is I wouldn't go as far as say he was good, but what I would say is nobody came out of that season and was like, oh, the Colts are in trouble. Like, Peyton Manning's not the guy. He just set the interception record. It's all bad. Like, people came out of that season where he set the interception record and led the league, I think, in interceptions, and everybody was convinced he was going to be a star. So I'm not sure I would go as far as say he was good overall that year, but I would say everyone came out of it and was like, he's the guy. Like, he'll figure it out.
He was good the same way. There are some analysts out there saying Cam Ward, like, wow, on Sunday on a 12 of 28 for 112-yard, 4 yards per attempt performance where he got sacked 6 times. And I'm not saying that was wrong. I'm saying there was a lot of promising things about Cam Ward given all of the circumstances.
But that's the difference, right? It's promising versus good. Like, you wouldn't come out of that game where, like, Cam Ward was great. You'd be like, there's a lot of reasons for
I would say promising. I wouldn't say good. I would say promising. Because
so
if
that's
you're
the
saying,
difference.
I
would
agree.
say
That's
Peyton
fine.
Manning, you came out of that season, and it was an incredibly promising
I'd have to go
rookie
throw by
season.
throw on Peyton to officially say
an
it.
incredibly promising rookie season despite leading the league in interceptions.
Now, this take on Herbert, I'm torn on Herbert. I think like a lot of people are. I think a lot of extreme takes on Herbert, right? The extreme takes usually go, he's more talented than the top guys. He's more talented than Joe Burrow, therefore he's better, right? Because talent usually means, does he throw the ball faster, and is he a faster runner? Like, talent is interpreted as Does he throw the ball fast and does he run fast? Usually.
Yeah, it's physically talented is what they talk about.
Which I don't think matters at all. I mean, it doesn't matter when you're comparing NFL performances. So you get that extreme, and the other extreme is like he's a 500 quarterback. Multiple coaches, multiple coordinators. And I think there's truth in both. I think he's a good quarterback. He's been a productive quarterback. I also think there's maybe been something lacking, and I do think over time QB wins are a good stat. I do think over time they get you in the ballpark, and if you are consistently underperforming, there's probably something there. I also don't think just because I don't even know what his official record is, but just because he's around a 500 quarterback, it doesn't mean they can't go 14-3 this year, right? I think that's possible too. So I don't know. I would never do this Peyton Manning trajectory thing.
Currently 41-38.
Yeah, it's 500 quarterback.
What I would say is
him and Baker Mayfield, similar career record.
Yeah. So I think part of the problem with a guy like Herbert is he's dealt with a lot of injuries in his career.
Yes.
Now,
which
you can look at that in two different ways. You can say, well,
I blame the QB.
The man's kind of injury prone, right? And that might not go away. Or you can say, look, if he has a stretch where he's not injured for a period of time, the ceiling is clearly high for him and maybe as high as these other guys. I kind of look at Herbert actually as a good candidate for that. Your Jameis Winston love. You know, the idea that any season now, Jameis Winston's going to have an MVP year where he just puts it all together, stops making boneheaded decisions, and all you get is the high end of his variance, right? Which for Jameis was never going to happen. But for Herbert, I think, is plausible. You could, in any given year, you could have a year where Herbert stays healthy and plays at the high end of his ability, which you think is up there with Burrow and Mahomes and Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson.
I agree, yes.
And if you get that, I mean, it could be this year. It could be 3 years from now. Anytime you could get one of those years from Justin Herbert. Or you could get a year that looks like, previous years where he's banged up and he's nicked up and it's not quite as good and they lose more games than they should and blah, blah, blah. But a guy like Herbert, I think, is able – so you could look at that the way Danny Parkins did and said it's just the Peyton Manning trajectory, right? Year 6 is when he becomes Super Bowl champion and MVP and, the ascends, apotheosis. Or you could just say it just happened to be year 6 where you got the clean year where he didn't get hurt and nothing, and he got it was a career year for him in year 6.
No, I think that's fair. I think that's a good way of putting it. Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's in the top 4, but he's in the QB5 conversation. And when you're ranking quarterbacks, any given year QB5 could be the best. Any given year QB7 could have Cam Newton was the best quarterback in the league. I don't think he was top 10 in his generation. Carson Palmer was right up there with him. I don't think he was top 10 really in his generation. So in any given year, I don't think you need to compare it to Peyton in his trajectory. I got one more. Some thoughts on Russell Wilson and Jackson Dart.
Let Russ cook. Let him cook. If you're the head chef at the restaurant, right, you don't want one of the waiters outside coming in and telling you how to cook. You don't want them coming in and messing up your rhythm as a quarterback. Let the man be quarterback number 1 until you decide to make a change. Hell, you might not have to make a change. Why prep Jackson Dart and getting him ready? What message does that send to Russell Wilson? I don't like what it sends to Russell Wilson. Let the man play until he loses his job.
You keep saying they say let Russ cook, but people keep sending the dish back. So how am I keep letting something?
I will say Shannon Sharp has a very infectious laugh.
Yeah.
This is something. It makes you feel good. Just hearing him.
Likable.
I like
it. Dusting off a 2019
I'll let Russ Cook take.
Your thoughts?
I mean, it's like let him cook until he loses his job. But if you bench him this week, he's lost his job. What is that? I don't really understand.
I think that's a difference between a player show or a player opinion versus I think what we try to do. We usually look at our analysis through the lens of the organization and what's best for the team. And players tend to lean toward what's better for the player. Like if Ocho was in year 10 and they drafted a wide receiver, he would be saying, I still want to play. I'm still good. I want my reps. But the receiver that they drafted is the future, and everybody knows that. And so we know Jackson Dart's the future. So we always look at it through when's Jackson Dart going to play? What's best for him? He's got to get extra reps to get him ready. We thought the Patriots did a great job giving Drake May 30% of the reps last year. I could see veterans being like, well, that's not fair to Jacoby Brissett. Well, yeah, he's not the future of the Patriots. Jacoby Brissett's no longer a Patriot, which is why last year they did this. Like, Russell Wilson probably won't be on the Giants next year.
Sure.
He's not their future. So it really doesn't matter unless you knew you were going to get like 2014 Russell Wilson for some reason, and I don't think there's any evidence that that's the case.
I think it's a reasonable point to make, and I'm not even sure this is the point he was making, that they should not be publicly equivocating on Russell Wilson right now. Like, Brian Daboll not fully backing Russell Wilson 1 week into the season, I think is pretty harsh and pretty unfair to Russell Wilson when he wasn't the only bad thing of that performance against Washington. Like, no Andrew Thomas, their offensive line still stinks. They didn't have a lot of help around him. It's not like Russell Wilson was the anchor dragging down this offense, and if you just put in the rookie, everything would have been great. So to come out of that game, and it's not like he said, look, Russell Wilson is the problem and we're evaluating it, but there's no reason he couldn't have said, Russ is the quarterback, he's our guy, even if you then pulled the rug out from under him and decided he wasn't and went the other direction. I think that's hanging the guy out to dry publicly, which feels pretty harsh, really, particularly in a New York media market. Like, why the need to do that?
In a week where Daniel Jones went somewhere else, had a really efficient game with the Colts. Their offense looked outstanding, and the Giants' offense, as I said on Sunday, looked very similar as far as offensive line issues, didn't run the ball, couldn't get the ball down the field. And this is Russ, who we said, well, at least his one strength is throwing the deep ball and creating some chunk plays. And they didn't have a pass over 25 yards, and he averaged 4.5 yards per attempt. So he's, stat line that looked like a Daniel Jones type of game. And Daniel Jones went off and had a really good game with the Colts. So coming out of that, you would say, okay, Russ just stepped right into this calibrated Giants offense that they have outside of the one game with Drew Lock last year.
Yeah.
They were incredible. So I get it. I just think you're still trying to do whatever's best for Jackson Dart, whatever that might be.
I mean,
probably, as the chat suggests, when Andrew Thomas gets back, that'd be a good time.
I just don't
put him out there.
Like, Russell Wilson hasn't shown enough at the moment to be like, Russ is still the Russ from, the last iteration of let Russ cook. Let's just let him go all the way through the season, and he'll be the best thing we've got. I think it's entirely possible that Jackson Dart will be a better option for them at some point this season, and maybe that's sooner rather than later. But I don't see any reason. Like, number one, I wouldn't do that until you have the one good player in your offensive line back in the lineup. And number two, I don't see any reason why you can't publicly talk up and defend the current starting quarterback until he's no longer the current starting quarterback. Like, week one coming out and being like, well, we'll see if he starts next week is immediately it's immediately undermining him publicly.
Yeah. No, I agree. We didn't serve Russ well. We didn't do well with him.
No.
The dish might be burnt, but we could do better in the kitchen, helping him cook. All right, quick break to talk about today's sponsor, BrooklynBedding. BrooklynBedding handcrafts every mattress in their Arizona factory. No middlemen, no gimmicks, just top-tier quality, honest pricing, and real American craftsmanship, Sam, for a better night's sleep. You got rid of your Irish mattress in favor of your BrooklynBedding mattress.
I think it was actually a British mattress, but yeah, same
thing.
Yeah,
the Irish mattress is true. We want to trash that.
Yeah.
The British, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure the Irish one would have lasted even longer. But yes, American-made craftsmanship, and it's been awesome. Monstrously thick, luxurious sleep.
So go to BrooklynBedding.com. Use our promo, check the mic at checkout to get 30% off site-wide. Sam loves it, and you will too. This offer is not available anywhere else. That's BrooklynBedding.com with D's. BrooklynBedding.com. Promo code is check the mic for 30% off site-wide. Make sure you enter our show name after checkout so they know we sent you. BrooklynBedding.com. Promo code is check the mic. Go get your 30% off. All right, what do we have now? We got roadside assistance time. The 49ers.
Everybody's hurt.
Everybody's hurt.
Except McCaffrey, ironically.
For now. So we're going to tell you about our friends over at Root Insurance, and then we're going to solve the 49ers issues. Root Insurance believes that good drivers deserve better rates, so they've created a new kind of car insurance that rewards good drivers in an easy-to-use app. Traditional car insurance companies focus on demographics like age, zip code, occupation, credit score to price your coverage. But when Root offers a rate, your behavior behind the wheel gets more weight than any other single factor. They don't use occupation or education level. to negatively affect your rate. So while you drive, Root gathers and analyzes your data from your smartphone sensors. After a few weeks, you'll get a car insurance quote based primarily on your driving. You can save up to 44% off your initial Root quote after you take the test drive. So if you need a tow truck, jump start, or if you lock your keys in the car, Root will cover the help you need to get you back on the road when you opt into Roadside Assistance. The Root app makes it easier to edit your coverage, update your policy, or file a claim in just 3 minutes. You can get started today at Root.com. And today, we are providing roadside assistance somehow. I don't know what the answer is going to be, but we'll get to it.
Yeah.
For the San Francisco 49ers, who are dealing with injuries everywhere. Brock Purdy, as Kyle Shanahan said, left shoulder and toe injury. His status is up in the air for Sunday here. Don't know if he's even going to practice.
Which is kind of wild because I hate these injuries where a guy like plays an entire
Finishes the game,
makes the play right at the end, and then it's like, oh, by the way, he might miss the next few weeks. Like, what?
That's my least favorite injury, is the one where the guy finishes the game and it's like he's out, or like J.J. McCarthy.
Right.
It's like, oh, we have minor knee surgery, and it's he's out for the year.
Well,
year.
That went from he played the game, came out of it, and was like, J.J. McCarthy looked great. This is going to be awesome. He's going to win the starting gig. And it's like, actually, tap the brakes on that. It turns out his knee's a little sore after that game. And then within 24 hours, it went from, we're going to see a doctor about that, to, oh, the doctor says it's bad, and if he elects to have the surgery, he's shut down for the year. So in like 24 hours, we went from McCarthy's really good, he's going to win the starting job, to actually see you next year.
So you've got Purdy, finished the game. He's up in the air for at least this week. George Kittle has been placed on IR, so that's 4 weeks at least.
With the hammy.
That he's out with the hamstring injury. The fourth week of that, I believe, is a short week, so I think they thought he'd be at least 3 weeks, and they said, hey, let's go IR here. We have a CT scan for Juwan Jennings, receiver. Ben Barch, a guard, knee sprain. He's day-to-day, and they have waived kicker Jake Moody. That might be the solution. Jake Moody has been – sorry, Jake. How are we going to help the 49ers out of this with some roadside assistance?
I mean, a big part of it has got to be leaning on the one good player that you've got left healthy in Christian McCaffrey. I mean, it sounds simple. The other thing, by the way, is this could lead to the scenario that everybody's been dreaming for, which is if Brock Purdy can't go, we get Kyle Shanahan and Mac Jones finally united.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm kind of
now,
interested.
there's nobody there left with him to play with, which is unfortunate.
I'm kind of interested in that. So I'm with you on the McCaffrey thing. I mean, he had a high-volume game, carry-wise the other day, but I still think he looked fine. I think he looked okay.
You've got Christian McCaffrey remaining, right? You've got newly acquired Brian Robinson, who's there. You've got Ricky Pearsall is still healthy. That's kind of it, though, at that point. You've got Marquez Valdes-Scantling is there, but we know what he is and isn't. Kendrick Bourne, they re-signed, and he's got experience with this offense. Jake Tungas apparently is a dynamic red zone threat based off last weekend. But yeah, you are
dynamic red zone
kind of down to the bare bones at this point. It's McCaffrey and Pearsall.
So I like the idea of leaning on McCaffrey. He did have, 8 catches the other day, moving him around the formation. I think you have to continue down that path. I mean, if McCaffrey's healthy, you're feeding that guy.
Yes.
The benefit of having all the playmakers that they used to have, we would say week in, week out, you don't need McCaffrey every week. You don't need Kittle every week. You don't need Debo every week, because one of those guys will be the guy in a given week, depending on the game plan. You've lost that luxury, so I think you have to lean on the dependable guys. McCaffrey's the first one. And then Mac Jones, if he is going to replace Brock Purdy. I think Mac, it's funny because if you just said pure velocity-wise, Brock Purdy, Mac Jones, you might say similar. Like they have below average velocity for the NFL, especially Mac. But Purdy plays with such great anticipation. And he's got just a good playmaking feel. And I think a lot of his accuracy will make up for it. Mac Jones has shown elements of that, right? A lot of it was his first 10 starts. He showed elements of throwing the ball early, getting rid of the ball, making good decisions. His issue has always been, the lack of tools caught up for Mac Jones at certain points, and he would make some just boneheaded decisions in there, which, by the way, Brock had a couple rough ones in there the other day as well. I think if Kyle Shanahan can just get him playing quick and fast within the system, Mac can execute it, which is why there was talk about him going number 3 overall in that 2021 draft. So I am interested in seeing that. Mac Jones didn't look great in the preseason when they played, but that was preseason for whatever it's worth. I think they could have some success together, Kyle Shanahan and Mac Jones.
Yeah, the problem, though, is that Mac Jones doesn't have any of the kind of late-down escapability, ad-libbing prowess that Brock Purdy has, and which I think is a bigger and bigger element of this offense, because I don't know that the offense, the way Shanahan draws it up, is having the same kind of cheat code effect that it used to have.
Maybe you get back to a little bit more play action heavy, a little bit more of the Garoppolo offense that they ran.
I would be really interested in seeing a Mac Jones sort of start or two if you had the full suite of Shanahan weaponry, right? If you did have George Kittle and Brandon Ayuk and Juwan Jennings and Ricky Pearsall and Christian McCaffrey, if they were all in the lineup, I'd be kind of fascinated to see how Shanahan and Mac Jones would operate the offense together with the cupboard as bare as we've been outlining, where it might be just Christian McCaffrey and Ricky Pearsall. I sort of feel like Mac Jones is going to end up looking like garbage anyway, because there'll be too many plays that don't have an answer, and then he doesn't have an answer beyond that, the way Purdy might sometimes. And we just conclude, it was always a bad idea.
So we've done our best. Roadside assistance for the 49ers. Lean on McCaffrey.
Lean on the two good players you got left.
Hope Mac doesn't have a couple of those. He just has some bad under pressure. What's that noise you always make? Like those plays. The Mac Jones plays. Avoid those, Mac. That's your roadside assistance.
Avoid making that noise.
Brought to you by Root Insurance. Go check it out at root.com.
Before we get into our next thing, I want to throw a curveball at you and get your take on this idea of. So we talked about this on our instant reaction show a little bit. The Monday Night Football Bears Vikings. If you're listening, hopefully you got that as a little bonus episode on the RSS feed, wherever you get your podcast from.
You want to explain what we're going to do there? Because we used to do a little Monday Night Football review on Wednesdays.
Yeah, so I think we're going to release that as like a bonus show for people in audio land, where you can get it as its own independent, little 20-minute podcast thing. If you're watching on YouTube, I mean, we put it up on YouTube, so you could have, should have seen it already. So we're just going to nix it from this show. It's already been covered, essentially. But anyway, we talked about it a little bit on Monday. Late in the game, the Bears, they're trying to score just before the 2-minute warning because they only have one timeout left. The 2-minute warning serves as a second clock stoppage, effectively. Basically saves them 40 seconds, right, to be able to try and make this comeback. And what they do, so you've got multiple options at this stage at the kick. You could try and take the onside kick, although if you take it, you basically need to get it because you're burning that 2-minute warning timeout. Or you can kick a touchback, kick it dead in some way, shape, or form so that they can't chew the clock. Instead, they kicked it 4 or 5 yards into the end zone. The Vikings just took it out of the end zone, burned a few seconds, and you lose the play. They did the one thing you couldn't do, right? And it turns out, according to Ben Johnson, that they tried to kick the touchback, and Cairo Santos just doesn't have the leg to make that happen.
They're kicking from the 30.
Right, but I don't think that's a problem for 90% of NFL kickers at this point. We're in a world where these guys are making...
It is much more of a problem than you're making it out to be.
Don't think that's true.
Kicking it through the end zone is not a gimme anymore.
I feel like it kind of is. Aside from anything else. So number one, I think that's a fairly significant indictment in your kicker, in his range, independent of the fact that he also missed kicks in the game. I think that's a pretty bad thing if your kicker cannot kick it through the end zone, even from the 30. The other thing is, though, you didn't have to do that. You could have kicked it out of bounds. You could have apparently just kicked it off the tee. Like, you didn't have to, so it's both an indictment in your kicker and your coach.
I appreciate because we theorized, I know I specifically said on the recap show, the two things that stood out, they should have just kicked it out of bounds or kicked it off the tee, whatever. Know the rules. And I said, I think they were trying to kick it out of bounds. And you said, hey, that's bad for the kicker. Fine. So he admitted that yesterday, Ben Johnson. He also said he probably shouldn't have challenged the pass where TJ Hawkinson catches the ball. He's on the ground. There's a peanut punch. But he said he overruled. He was not told from the booth to challenge that.
Right.
So he overruled that. I thought that was interesting. First off, he admitted it, and that's great. Like, you take responsibility for things.
I mean, in a world where Brian Callahan is getting all kinds of crap, justifiably, I think, because he didn't know a rule, right? Like Brian Callahan basically admitted that the Ayumaner catches a ball, comes down, gets an elbow in and nothing else. But the elbow came in. That's, one elbow equals 2 feet effectively, and it should have been in, and they didn't challenge it. And when asked about it, he basically said, yeah, but he needs a foot down as well. And everyone was like, no, you don't. Turns out he didn't know that. Now, he came out afterwards and said he goofed and should have called it, but then kind of walked it back and said, I misspoke. So it's unclear whether he knew the rule or not, but it doesn't make any sense if he didn't know the rule.
That's how I argue with my wife.
Right.
Like, I'm kind of admitting I'm wrong, but I hate being wrong, so I'm going to justify it too.
So I think it's fair to conclude at this point that he did not know that rule, which is fairly mind-blowing. Also, you have to conclude that nobody in the chain of discussion in this, do we challenge, do we not, either knew the rule or was willing to overrule their head, like call him on it and be like, dude, that's not the rule, challenge it. You kind of have to come to the same conclusion here in Chicago, which is this sounds like two different rules that Ben Johnson didn't know. The one that if you just punch the ball and nothing else, it's still down by contact, even though you think that it shouldn't be logically because you didn't touch the guy. And then this one, which is just kick the ball out of bounds.
Well, then you have to wonder what the communication process was, because he said nobody up top suggested that you challenge it.
Which is fine because
but he may have not asked either. He may not have said, hey, should I challenge that? He may have just thrown the flag, which, by the way, we say this a lot, how fast the game moves.
Yes.
It's easy when we're sitting on our couch over here. It's easy to talk through things. Things move fast.
Yeah.
Especially when you're on offense, and it's like, we'll get the next play call coming in. I mean, you have the 40-second play clock. Things move quickly. It is no matter how much preparation you have, and you should be as prepared as you can for all these situations, you have to make some quick decisions. And you saw on the other sideline, you saw Kevin O'Connell, who seemed, they had the 2-minute warning, right, to be able to talk through what should happen, or they had the break after the touchdown to talk through what it should. And you saw Kevin O'Connell, telling him to come out, and like they were very well prepared for that. But it is quick though. Like you have to make quick decisions, talk to who you need to talk to, and get the information that you need. So, but it's his first time being a head coach.
But that's why you have to have somebody in the loop somewhere in this dynamic whose job it is to do this kind of thing. Because I actually have some sympathy with the idea that an NFL head coach might not know 100% every single rule. Now, the Brian Callahan one sort of feels like you should know that.
Yeah.
There's so many rules that I kind of have some sympathy with the idea of you might get one wrong, right? There's got to be a guy on the staff whose job it is to know the rule book inside and out so that if you're about to goof live during the 40 seconds where, it is moving fast, maybe you talk yourself out of the right rule in your head and you get it wrong, there's got to be a guy on the thing saying, no, that's the wrong thing, do this, right? If that guy doesn't exist in these chains of command, or if you're overruling that guy, that's in either situation, that's a problem.
I will, let me just add this too. There was, of course, Ben Baldwin and some others that trust the fourth down models brought up Mike McDonald overruling their own model by kicking a field goal.
Yeah.
And he admitted it.
Right.
And again, it's interesting. Obviously, they ended up losing. And then I skimmed his answer, so I don't want to misconstrue this, but basically saying I liked the way our defense was playing, and I liked so he's going with the feel. And by the way, we're always talking percentage points here, right? Like we're talking 2% this way, 2% that way. But a lot of his reasoning was the feel, and our defense was playing well, and we thought we could make the plays, and it didn't work out, and they didn't make the plays. But that's kind of why the models exist, and why the work is done before the game, right? The models are written before the game. Everything's before the game, and it takes into account all of those factors that you're feeling. It takes into account your defense, and it takes into account that it doesn't matter how your defense was playing. Like the one place where I could say this weekend I probably would have trusted the defense no matter what was Denver against Tennessee, because we were at extreme ends of rookie quarterback, offensive lines getting whooped, and a good defense in Denver. That was the one place where no matter what Sean Payton did would be right, because his defense was just overwhelming Tennessee, and I never felt like Tennessee had a chance. I just wanted to bring that up because I think it's similar to Ben Johnson throwing a challenge flag when he didn't want to, or having to know the rule. Like the head coach, you're right, should not have all of that on his plate. He wasn't hired, right? You don't go into the interview process because you're a rules expert, because you know what to do on every fourth down decision. It's for CEO type stuff and X and O's, basically, right? You have some level of X and O acumen that's put you in this position, and you're going to be the CEO of the team. But the CEO of the organization doesn't make every decision. I mean, they make every decision, but they don't bring all the information to the table to make the decision. When you go with your gut or when you just throw a challenge flag, you're the one that's saying my information's better than what people are presenting to me. Did I tie all that together at the end? And so the best CEOs take all the information in and then make the final call based off of that. And in these two instances, McDonald overruled and Ben Johnson essentially overruled, and they both got burnt for it. When I think over time you're better off going with what the information's telling you.
Yeah, I do think there's a difference though in that, like the challenge or not thing, like the rules specifically. Like theoretically, that's just a specific interpretation of the rules, and you trust that guy to be correct on that particular situation. Right now, he won't be because these are all judgment calls to some degree, and sometimes the officials, like we've all seen games where the replay says one thing and yet the official comes on and is like, no, call on the field stands. You're like, what? We just saw replay to like conclusively say that's not the case. What are you doing? So you're going to get some of those wrong. But theoretically, I think the guy should always be defaulting to the dude whose job it is literally to do that, know the rules, and say, yes, challenge this. The model to go for it or not in the fourth down, and the data says go, and you're like, nah, I'm overruling it. I'm okay with the guy overruling that because these things are always 51, 49 percentage point here or there, and I'm okay saying, you know what, I think even though the model has weighted all this stuff, in this particular instance, I believe that one random factor involved in this model is actually more potent in this game than it is normally, and I'm overruling the model right now. In any random one instance, I'm kind of okay with the head coach doing that, but I think it's potentially a problem if he starts doing that a lot, right?
Yeah.
Like if you find yourself consistently wanting to overrule your model, I think that's an issue. If you've decided that, no, this random one game, I believe that there's a piece of information I possess that should be weighted more heavily than the model, right? I'm going to say no when the model says yes, or I'm going to say yes when the model says no. I think that's fine, and actually, potentially, that should be the guy's job. But it's definitely something I think you would need to police yourself on, like, and whether it's you or somebody else, like, make sure I'm not doing this all the time, right?
Yeah,
Because otherwise, there's no point in the model.
I'm with you. I'm okay. It's a small percentage. I agree, and I'm okay with going rogue every now and again. I think for me, it's more the reasoning, and the coach is more inclined. Like he's a defensive-minded head coach. Where Todd Bowles has gotten into trouble throughout the years, being less aggressive than he should, as a defensive-minded head coach, it's like I trust my defense.
Yeah, and that's why I think you've got to look at it over a period of time. Like in any one instance, like number one, the first thing is, okay, if you're going to overruling it, what is your explanation? If you can explain it logically, beyond like, I just got the feels. Like if you can actually give it a serious logical explanation, fair enough. I think that's your purview. You get grace to do that. If you find yourself having done that, 3 or 4 times in a row, and there's no real good explanation beyond the same thing over and over again, then I think you've got a problem because now you're just fouling the model.
It goes the other way though with offensive coaches where they're like, we thought we had a great play. But that's my problem is if it's overconfidence in your own ability, either offensive play caller or defensive minded coach, that doesn't like we're just going to outperform what the model says. Don't worry, we're going to outperform it because I'm in charge here. That's essentially what happened there.
But I think you can probably, again, in any one instance, I think you can probably say, I'll give you one, right? You get one of those, like a mulligan. Like they might have been working on some random play that somebody cooked up and they'd run it every time in practice. And every time they did, it was a complete coverage bust. I'm kind of okay to say, you know what? Maybe this one is different, right? Let's give them a shot. But if you did it 4 times and every time you're like, you know what? We just felt really good about this play. Well, now you're just not learning the lesson, dumbass. Like 4 times this is happening and none of those occasions was your super play actually any good. Like that's an issue. But if one time actually your play had been amazing, and then I'm okay giving you 1. But beyond 1, I think you've got to have a conversation with somebody and explain why it's not working.
It's fun talking through this, though. I enjoy it.
But I think it's interesting now that 2 head coaches, one first year, one not, have basically not known the rule in a game situation that ended up being pretty costly.
I will admit, I mean, the elbow down one I think is pretty clear, and I'll just repeat what I said on the show that I'll steal it from a commenter on Twitter. Do you think coaches sometimes they just don't watch football?
Sure.
They don't watch the broadcast. They don't hear these things. They don't sit there and debate like
the
fans
Ben
do.
Johnson one is a perfect example of that, because the only reason I knew that was because it's come up again. It's come up relatively recently in the last couple of years, where somebody's come in, they've punched just the football. They haven't touched the guy.
I didn't know that rule on Monday night. I apologize. It's not my job to know every rule, but I didn't know that one until Monday night.
But that's happened relatively recently, where the exact same situation, all they've touched is the ball, and it turns out that rules you down by contact. If you didn't watch that broadcast, you might not know that. And I think that's an understandable thing to not know.
And so people know what happens in NFL buildings. Maybe not in every building, but there are, as you said, there are designated rules experts. There are people who they have a dedicated hour with the head coach. Like every Wednesday, we're going to sit down, or whatever the day is. Every Friday, we're going to sit down and go over like funky stuff that happened this week, rule stuff. So there are people around the league right now that are going to have dedicated time with the head coach saying, here's this thing that happened on Monday Night Football, so that you know, right? And they are educating the head coach on quirky rules or situations that came up or whatever it might be. So that does happen often enough.
But I think this is a big red flag for both those two teams, that something is wrong in the current org chart during game days, right? Because whether or not you're cool with the head coach not knowing those rules, somebody along the way has to, and that person either doesn't exist right now or is not being listened to the point where the head coach is able to screw up the call.
You're talking live. Brian Callahan and Ben Johnson in particular. I dragged Mike McDonald into this conversation, but you're talking.
Correct.
Yeah.
So something needs to change for both those teams so that they don't goof again.
All right, man, we got some mailbag to discuss here. Check the mic at the33rdteam.com. You too can email us, and Wednesday, if the good stuff comes through, we'll read it out on Wednesday. This is our time. This is our fun show.
Yeah,
the other ones are fun, but this is like good, just get to relax.
We get some good emailing.
Gandalf and Frodo.
That's because
this one's addressed to.
We did that forced perspective joke on the live stream from the couch, where you sit close and then it looks like Gandalf and Frodo.
This is from Andrew Schultz, not the comedian.
Not the comedian.
He said, I had the first name first. He can screw off. Yeah, he says, just saw that all the other coaches in the division have been Goff's offensive coordinator. Is that a new weird NFL record?
I saw that. That is pretty.
So the NFC North has former offensive coordinator Ben Johnson, Kevin O'Connell, and Matt LaFleur.
Yeah, everybody in the NFC North is either Jared Goff's head coach or has previously been his offensive coordinator. That's pretty wild.
It's got to be some kind of record.
Right, you would think.
And Goff, I saw somebody put some kind of like troll out there, and I have no idea if it was true, but like if you look up Goff's record without either McVay or Ben Johnson,
he was winless or something. There's no way that's true.
I don't think that's true, because he had 1 year without Ben Johnson in Detroit, right? And they were awful. And he had the 1 year with the Rams before McVay got there.
He didn't win a game with Jeff Fisher at all?
I don't think so. That was some of the worst offense I've ever seen.
It was. I still didn't feel like they went winless.
But so I'm not going to fact check it, but
right,
it's something worth looking into. All right, we got Mike from Jersey. Every year, hey Sam and Steve, every year you guys talk about one week one result that didn't seem like a big deal in September, but ends up looking shocking by December. In 2022, the Bears beat the Niners. They ended up almost with flipped records. The Bears were 3-14, Niners were 13-4. In 2023, the Jets beat the Bills after Zach Wilson came in for Aaron Rodgers, led the comeback. And in 2024, the Patriots knocked off the Bengals, costing the Bengals a playoff spot in the end. So here's my listener pitch. Which week one game from the 2025 season do you think will look the most bizarre or telling when the calendar hits January? I'm looking for the one game that in 4 months we'll all be scratching our heads and saying, how did X team beat Y?
I like that. I would have gone with like the Bengals-Browns if the Browns had won the game that they should have won. Yeah. That would have been the obvious one. If outside of that,
similar, like if the Jets had pulled it off.
Yeah.
160-yard field goal going the other way.
I mean, even without it, I could see that being the one. Like Pittsburgh unspooling this season is still entirely on the table. Even
you think so?
Yeah, why not?
Okay.
Like one game where their offense was good, their defense was not good, and they scraped past the Jets. Like, if this team unraveled and Aaron Rodgers didn't play well or gets hurt, like, and the Steelers end up with a 6-11 record at the end of the season, this game would look ridiculous.
I still want to say Indy Miami should be the biggest outlier. It's tough to buy into anything in Miami right now.
Yeah. I have a hard time seeing Miami coming out of the tailspin this season. But you could see the Colts not being great.
Right. You could still see the Colts being anywhere from 6 to 10 wins.
Right.
And if they're a 6-win team at the end, it's like, oh, they had the best performance in week 1.
I guess, I would struggle. Yeah.
The Saints last year, the other one that you could add.
Yeah.
Where they literally looked like the best team in the league for 2 straight weeks.
I mean, teams that had in very encouraging / dominant wins that who would be this year's Saints, right? It's hard to see one. Like the Colts, maybe. The Packers look dominant to the point where Cowherd's saying, Super Bowl.
I mean, if Detroit was the best, it's easy to overreact to the Packers, but if Detroit won the division again, would you be surprised?
No. That's why I'm saying it's a ridiculous thing to, make that claim. I mean, if Bo Nix, if he plays like that every week, Denver's not going to be good.
If they implode, as great as that defense is, if they were to implode.
Yeah.
The other one, if New England turned it around, I'm not saying
I was thinking about that, but I felt like that was just too damning a performance across the board.
Just not there yet.
To be confident in that.
Yeah.
Even though we've said, look, this could be a double-digit win team if everything breaks their way, I struggle to see that after that game.
That's a good question, though. I like that.
It is.
We'll revisit, and we'll probably reference those things. Gents, there's a long one here. Allow me to express my appreciation for your show and check the Mike's commitment to integrity. Your radical candor and measured, some may say cogent, takes have given us honest NFL fans a safe haven from all the Shouty Shows. This is a long-time listener. Get all the nuance here. Unlike other shows, the Check the Mike community, as men and women of integrity, does not shy away from admitting uncomfortable truths like that integrity comes at a cost, and that judging by the market, Stephen A's paycheck pretty much sets the going rate at that cost. So in the spirit of kinship amongst like-minded individuals who realize that there is no worse grift than one of which we are not on the take, rest in peace, Uncle Anthony. I bequeath you a hot take to see if you can outshout the Shouty Shows this week so that you too can achieve the American dream of liquidating that nest egg known as integrity. Here's his take. Ben Johnson is the next Josh McDaniels. The non-sequiturs practically write themselves. Josh McDaniels won his first 6 games with the Broncos.
People do forget that, I think.
It says and Tim Tebow, but that wasn't with Tim Tebow. That was with Kyle Orton.
Yeah.
Ben Johnson, meanwhile, has lost all his games with generational quarterback Caleb Williams. Ergo, Ben Johnson is worse than Josh McDaniels. You're welcome. I look forward to seeing you two on ESPN between the hours of 10 a.m. and 1 p.m. on cafeteria TV at my office. Thanks for the great content, and Skol, Levi Krostoffel. He wants us to do Shouty Shows where I actually partake with the Shouty Show every week to piss you off. So the basic idea here from Levi, Ben Johnson is the next Josh McDaniels.
Yeah. I mean, that's certainly pretty out there. I do feel like that part of the number one, it's the most unexplainable part of the Josh McDaniels story is that they actually started well and everything. People were encouraged.
They beat the Patriots in that 6-0 start.
Right. And then everything unspooled.
Yeah.
But it was, I think people kind of forget that because the thing unspooled so fast after that it's like, oh, this was always a disaster.
Because they beat New England at that time in 2009, as a pre-NFL analyst, I was merely a AAA pitcher at that time.
Okay.
I was dusting off my own take that a former offensive coach of a team has the advantage over a former defensive coach of a team, using pretty much 2 data points, which was John Gruden going to Tampa Bay and waxing the Raiders in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And then Josh McDaniels beating the Patriots that year. The idea being, the offense so well that every check, you can dictate the action. Which looks to give them to get them into which plays you wanted, that the offensive coach can dictate the action. I haven't studied it further, but those 2 data points, I was like, boom, got it. I think we have it right. And then things completely fell apart.
100% fell apart. Yeah, it was a disaster from that point on. I mean, look, I think that's probably unlikely on the basis that Josh McDaniels, I mean, I said I've been saying he's the worst head coach in NFL history. You, I think, recently mentioned that Urban Meyer is the worst head coach in NFL history. You can certainly make that argument.
Urban Meyer.
It's not difficult. However,
there's documentaries on Lou Holtz's time with the Jets.
Right.
And then Urban Meyer had a career's worth of indiscretions.
I would not for 1 second argue that the Urban Meyer tenure was not an utter and total disaster. However, what kind of elevates McDaniel to me is that he went away, like regrouped, learned for a decade, came back, and repeated exactly the same train wreck.
I mean, Urban just did not have a second opportunity.
Urban hasn't had a chance to learn and grow from his mistakes.
When he gets a second opportunity 8 years from now,
that's what I'm saying.
I promise you, he will be the worst in NFL history.
I would go the other way. I would be surprised if Urban Meyer came back in 10 years' time, having learned from his errors, and did exactly the same thing.
He was 8 indiscretions in, and he just went to a bar downtown in Cincinnati.
Yeah. But I would be surprised if he came back in 10 years' time, and within 6 months you heard a story about him kicking his own kicker. That's all I'm saying.
The worst gift my wife ever gave me was the Urban Meyer book on leadership. I mean, after I had to have a sit down with her during that season.
Maybe
I was like, "You bought me this book, and this is the worst coach, the worst leader I've ever seen in my life."
But maybe he's really good at do as I say, not as I do.
I mean, the book was like, you got to set the example. It was the complete opposite.
That's what I'm saying.
You just put words down.
You're shooting the messenger. Maybe his message is really good.
Evaluate it on its merits. About the gift that she gave me.
Evaluate his message on its merits. Don't invalidate the message just because the messenger happens to be a jackass.
So I would say you could put Josh McDaniels in the bottom.
Certainly in the bottom echelon. Anyway, the point I was making is I think I would be surprised if Ben Johnson, regard anything else that you know about him, it's unlikely any given new head coach is going to be the worst head coach in NFL history. You know what I mean? It's like him, Nathaniel Hackett. Like it's a pretty short list of train wreck.
Hackett was he was over his head week 1.
Yes, but it's a pretty short list of those people. Is all I'm saying.
The one thing I'll say is we don't really know. I'm not ready to declare that. I appreciate the hot take.
Right.
I think it's fun.
It's aggressive.
It is. It's very aggressive. To get to that, the one thing I will say though, I mean, we talk about this every year. People are like, who's a good head coach? I'm like, we don't know. We got to sit down, and we don't know the interview process, and we don't know who they are. You have no idea if the X's and O's savant would be good or bad in this job, of which that is 20% of the job, 10% of the job. You have no idea. Right? That doesn't happen. That process doesn't happen in any other industry. Right? I've used this example before. No one would look at you and I and say, well, you worked for Neil Hornsby, so you must bring all of Neil Hornsby's strengths to the table, and so you're going to be the next great whatever, entrepreneur, CEO. Like, you're going to do the same job as your boss. Or Chris Collinsworth was our boss, right? Like, Mike Tannenbaum's our boss. You must be exactly like that guy. Because we're not, obviously.
Right.
The difference in football is, you have like a way of calling plays, or you have a system. And so that's the one connection point. So everybody that worked for Kyle Shanahan or worked for Sean McVay must have exactly the same system. The secret to McVay is probably the people aspect of it, right? The fact that he's identified the right people, not the right X's and O's savant, that he's found a Kevin O'Connell or a Zach Robinson or whoever. With Kyle Shanahan, has he done that well? Has Bill Belichick done that well? Or did Bill Belichick just bring people in that knew his system well and, followed orders? So I say all that to say, like, nobody really knows if Ben Johnson's just X's and O's savant or if he's managed the whole building type of guy, or if his process is going to work. But it is pretty extreme to say that he'll be Josh McDaniels, whose resume includes booting the starting quarterback, a reasonable starting quarterback out of 2 different buildings.
Yeah.
Jay Cutler and Derek Carr. Replacing with his own. Getting far worse after he did such things. And then after he left Denver, things got better, at least. And we'll see what happens after he leaves. After he's left the Raiders. It's not there yet, but to the point where like Devontae Adams and Jimmy Garoppolo, they're talking about their time there as like
I've never
a
heard,
dark time in their lives.
I have never heard players talk about a head coach the way every single player I've ever heard speak about him talks about Josh McDaniels as being awful. Like they universally talk about him as being like a genius. And this is the thing, even the guys that hate him say the man's a football genius, but he's the worst human to run an organization I've ever come across. Like every single player I have ever seen talk about McDaniels, whether it was with the Broncos or the Raiders, describes him in the same way, and it sounds like the worst experience ever.
I see the chat mentioning Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly had success.
Yeah, no,
at the
you
NFL level.
Possibly.
And then his 1 year run in San Francisco. I mean, I think there was a lot of issues with the front office, and the connection there just wasn't.
I mean, there's no way you can.
But he pissed some people. Like Chip pissed some people off because he got personnel power.
Right.
Howie lost power, and all of a sudden Chip was, the 2015 season in Philadelphia did not go well.
Right, but that was like a routine thing, not going that well.
Yeah. Is that it? Is that all I wanted to say? I like that. Appreciate the emails, though. Check the mic at the33rdteam.com. That's it for today as far as the emails go. I'm all screwed up, man. The times are off. Everything's off. Oh, they updated them. Talk about the YouTube memberships, man. So we got new people on the wall.
We do. We
got
a few new names added to the wall in our insider tier of YouTube memberships. Hopefully, at some point, that will go up on the screen, as we'll be doing with every show. Show our insider subscribers up there, members rather. That's part of the insider membership tier. Is you get your name literally written on the Check the Mic studio wall over there in the corner. We thought about doing it on the brickwork. That feels like it would be a problem. So instead, we have a giant canvas of black painted wall over there where our Check the Mic insiders will be put up constantly. You'll be part of the studio. But yeah, we got 3 different tiers. We have the first tier, our what do they call them? What do we call these guys?
We have the super fan.
Super fans, that's it.
That's $2.99 a month.
By the way, if
We
there's
have
a popular swell for a better name than Superfan, we're open to changing it.
We're supposed to what's our Swifties equivalent? It's more like, okay, Hulk Hogan had the Hulkamaniacs.
Yeah.
Ultimate Warrior had the Little Warriors.
Yeah.
Taylor has the Swifties.
Right.
So I think we need to know, what do you guys want to be called? What are the viewers, the listeners, like what is the name?
Yeah. At the moment, we're going with super fans. If you have a better idea and there's a groundswell, a popular drive for one particular thing, absolutely.
The creep back toward averages.
Yeah, that just doesn't feel
good.
It
doesn't roll off the tongue.
No. But anyway, that one's open for change. The insiders and then the Howard Hughes billionaire tier. If you absolutely love the show, if you're crazy, if you want to dismantle things outside the building just because it's annoying you, like if you want to build a building to affect our lighting. It's all if you're that, the Howard Hughes billionaire tier is for you.
We've teased a few different ways. I mean, it's already a pretty good tier, right? It's already a pretty good tier. But at some point, we might advance. Like you might maybe produce your own show. Maybe you run the cameras at some point.
Yeah.
Maybe you choose all the topics on a show. It's the Howard Hughes billionaire tier. It's some power to it. That's not there yet. You get the CTM merch gift package and special hotline and chat with us. I mean, there's some special things there, free access to any live event. But at some point, we might just give you full reign for a week. Who knows?
And at the very minimum, it'll be useful for paying the internet bill.
Yeah.
Turns out it's a bigger problem than you think it would be.
We'll let you pay the bill.
Somebody made the joke in the chat earlier. You see what happens as soon as the Lions lose? Here to pay the bills. When the bills didn't get paid.
The Bills literally did not get paid this week that the Lions got waxed by a division opponent. That's not
coincidence?
Good. Not at all. That's certainly true. By the way, we need to did we send the cease and desist out to Michael Lombardi in North Carolina for calling themselves the 33rd team?
I don't know.
Maybe beat a Power 4 opponent first, and you can call yourself the 33rd team like we do, which we had first. Can't do that yet, Michael. Check out. So right on the YouTube channel, mine is different than it was 2 days ago when I told you. I have a join button for the memberships.
That's, I believe, was always there.
Other views have a subscribe button with a plus next to it.
Yeah. Does that mean you weren't subscribed? Is that the problem here?
No, I'm subscribed. So there's a subscribe button with a plus or there's a join.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because I'm on a different account. I don't know if
That's what I'm saying. Are you subscribed on that account? Was that the problem here?
Let me get to my burner, see what that looks like. No, it's the same thing. It says join. It says join. Anyway, anything else to talk about today?
No. Anyway, all kinds of goodies there at the in the membership tiers. As Steve is a pains to say every week, you're not losing out anything if you're not a member. You're going to have the same thing every week. And that, just in case you were worried today, we didn't take the show behind a paywall. We just didn't pay the internet bill, and so it was late.
Yeah, we appreciate.
You're not going to be
everybody.
losing anything.
Appreciate you bearing with us. Yes, the show's free. Everything about the show is free. There's just some added perks.
Yeah. At some point in the future, it turns out you can gift free memberships. We just haven't quite worked out how that functions yet. So I don't think you can control who you gift them to, but we'll be able to drop out some free memberships to people in the chat. So you got to be here for these live streams so that you can potentially get a free membership.
And we're into full season cadence now. We did 7 a.m. on Monday, 9 a.m. today, theoretically, and then 9 a.m. tomorrow for our Week 2 preview. So that's where we are.
Man, the guy that was upset that we said we were live when we weren't is going to be big mad that you said we were live at 9 a.m. today.
We were theoretically. We were going to be live.
We were. We were ready to be live, and then the internet just wasn't there.
Lions fans let us down. Didn't pay the bills. All right, that's it for us today. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you again tomorrow, 9 a.m. with more Check the Mic.
Work.